Joining us now is Syreeta McFadden. She is a contributing writer at Feministing and a journalist. Hi, Syreeta. How are you?
Hi. Oh, I wouldn't necessarily classify myself as a journalist, but definitely a writer.
Okay, well, excuse me. It's okay. A writer at Feministing, and well, I'll say from looking at your work and looking at your Twitter feed, the generator of a lot of very interesting content in a number of different fields, all of which would be it would take a long time to fully introduce you, is what I'm trying to say. But it's great to have you on, and I just wanted to start. I guess yesterday, I think you were telling me you were in New York, and you were at a demonstration that took place in response to the acquittal of George Zimmerman. And I'm just wondering if you could kind of give us a flavor of what was going on. What were people talking about? What was the mood of it, and what was that like?
Well, I had an opportunity to go to the protest in Union Square yesterday evening. I did not participate in the march, and they marched from Union Square to Times Square,
Okay.
for which I think a lot of people have seen photos and feeds and vines and other like short video clips of what was happening. But when I got to the protest, which everyone was congregating in Union Square Park, which is a pretty prominent park, and for those of you guys who are not New Yorkers, but around 14th Street, that is kind of surrounded by commercial buildings and all of that. But
it's a very important public place in New York. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's probably it's our town square, whether reluctantly so. I mean, Union Square went through so many different transformations over the years, but it has returned again to be the town square where so much activity happens. I mean, I think some people know Washington Square Park for that, but Union Square Park has become that, which is just a little bit north of Washington Square Park. And I would say the mood was steadfast, unbelievably somber, determined, and the somberness of it was like it was a particular weight. It hit me like a brick when I walked in to see it was a massive crowd. I would say an easy several hundred people, and I think it built it up to at least maybe 1,000 or so. I would have to imagine I ended up marching or taking to the streets north of once they got to Times Square. But it was tremendous. I mean, the weight of it. It was also an opportunity for a lot of, I was with a couple of other parents, friends of mine who are also writers and poets, who are parents, and they brought their, my friend has a 1-year-old and another friend has a fairly newborn. Both are, one parent is black, one parent is white.
Yeah.
And just, it was good to commune with each other to kind of try and unpack the despairing sense of not being able to do something in a way that is meaningful to affect change so that we don't have another Trayvon Martin, even though the probability and likelihood and already evidence as such as another case in Florida with Jordan Davis. It's a righteous anger and a despairing anger, and it also felt very heavy, but also a lot of folks who were but it also gave me hope at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we are living in such a profoundly regressive period.
Yeah.
If I were to say anything to describe this period, we've made some major leaps and we're regressing in a way, and I don't really know how to unpack this incongruent movement our civil society is undergoing.
Do you think?
Yes.
No,
I would say.
Sorry, go ahead.
We had a really powerful crowd, and I was honored to be in their company.
I want to get back to that in a moment, but do you think that's a really interesting thing? Because with our previous guest, I just used this phrase of sort of the political reptilian brain of America seems to be really active right now. In this case, and in many other issues related to criminal justice, guns, reproductive health, and it does seem like it comes in conjunction with, in some respects, there was, okay, maybe there was some, advancements on a cultural level, like in terms of gay rights or in some respects electing President Obama. And now it's like the response to that and the rage of that is so intense and so overwhelming. And I'm wondering, do you think that, I guess part of that backlash is natural because people who've always experienced and still do enjoy an enormous amount of privilege perceive any type of even minute change to that as somehow being a threat. But I'm wondering if, in conjunction with that, when the sort of, for lack of a better word, kind of centrist conversation or a certain type of more non-ground liberal conversation devolved into kind of like, oh, we're in the post-racial moment and the new coalition and we're all, we're sort of all living these very kind of cosmopolitan lives. Did the dropping of scrutiny and critical discourse around this stuff, did that also open the door for the kind of level of ferocity in this backlash, do you think?
Well, look, I mean, there's so many angles to kind of like unpack this really dynamic time. I'm of one mind that, look, if like the left won, whether the last election, the left won, which was a stunner for, I think, the left. Is that, wait, we won the national election? Wait, we reelected President Obama in term. Holy cow, that actually worked. But the gravity and responsibility, and there's a certain degree of naivete about that, which I think the gravity of that tremendous electoral shift, where we've got the largest women representation in Congress in American history,
right,
where we have a second-term African-American president, where the pushback, where women in America mobilized to such a degree to fight and challenge any threat to reproductive freedom, to the pushback from immigrant communities who've become American citizens, to that bond that we're building with folks who are undocumented and documented, to try and create the America that we've always imagined her to be, based off of the narrative and set of ideals we've always been taught. All of that about what we are is absolutely being challenged. So now I feel like on one hand, we've not necessarily entered a certain degree of maturity about this conversation. There's a very childlike kind of conversation about what America is. But now there's this very adult, sobering part of this conversation that we have to engage, which is our huge underbelly of a history of discrimination and denigration of bodies. There's I'm still, I'm like just going out. I don't mean to go off too much on a tangent, but
no, you're not. This is great. Please go ahead.
But the real conversation for me has often been in my head. This strange notion when these personhood amendments started showing up in the last 2 years, in various state legislatures. This idea of trying to redefine what is human, who is a person, and who should be protected. If any, all of it, this confluence of unequal justice applied to people of color in our criminal justice system, to this draconian legislation over women's individual reproductive freedom, their privacy, their choice, our bodies. This is a conversation about personhood and whether or not, it's a multifaceted level of how does the United States recognize a person, and how are they equally protected under the law? And the fact that Citizens United, that decision was such a strange decision to me. We are more willing to give personhood rights to a corporation, someone who is living and breathing in the world. We're willing to deny her personhood right over the idea of a possible person. There's just something so it's a weird feedback loop for me. I don't completely comprehend why this challenge. One hand, it's power, it's a power struggle. I feel like, for some reason, their conservative elements are superbly uncomfortable with the idea of acknowledging and living in a pluralistic society. And
right.
for whatever reason that is, I cannot point to a singular thing. There's a culture of how everyone is comfortable with how brown bodies and women moved in space in American society, whether it be in positions of power and in politics, whether it's positions in the workforce. There's a general rule that everyone has kind of seemed I guess they wanted to embrace or have accepted that that's how this is, and everything about it we're challenging it. We're trying to push forward, but if we have to push forward, of course we're going to be met with a tremendous amount of resistance to try and push forward.
Taking what you said, but bringing up the personhood amendment and just the attack on women, and bringing it back to what you said earlier about how we're progressing, but at the same time we're regressing. I just think it's interesting because on a social and cultural level, I really do think we are progressing. I mean, there's still obviously a lot more to do and a lot further to go. But I think we are moving that direction. But what's going on is that the system is being changed in a way where it's regressing and favoring these voices that don't want this progression. For example, gerrymandering, these voter ID laws. I mean, it's obvious to me that, yes, there's still certain people in society who feel this way, but they are the minority now. But the system has been changed so dramatically in such a way where it's basically in favor of these voices now, though. So that's why I think it feels like we were regressing in these certain aspects, because the system is behind those people who want this regression.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, primarily because we know how. Racism in America, which is keep saying when moments like this happen, this is the time we're going to have the honest conversation about race in America. Mm-hmm. We are always going to have moments like this where we're going to end up saying as default, again, we need to have a more honest and thoughtful, mature response about race in America. And what needs to be, and I'm good, I appreciate folks who want to engage with me in racism one-on-one kind of conversations, because they've never necessarily thought about these particular questions about how how this system has been codified into our laws and our culture in a way that is discriminatory, for which they have which is why we've agitated for corrective measures in our law, and certainly try and police our culture to undo this great wrong. So there's a lot there's a lot of folks who are not necessarily when we're talking about this, we need to actually look at kind of more of the minutia of the institutionalization of racism, and certainly that's one thought that I have, and for particularly what was so hard, which.
Syreeta? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, you just cut out for a second. Go ahead.
Oh. Yeah. I feel like the last week of June with the twin. Well, there are so many Supreme Court decisions, and I'm still trying to understand.
Oh yes, we feel you there.
There's so many, and there are two other cases that I'm really, really freaked out about that we haven't actually entered into, that I haven't heard amplify into the public discourse, which is the DNA ruling and a Miranda ruling.
Right.
Right. And when I think of cases like the George Zimmerman trial, particularly, there are certain, just as a more in a periphery that every black and brown body is should be expected to be racially profiled whether whether there's wrongdoing or not, and just how it works with New York's stop and frisk problem, and then and that the DNA ruling says it's actually okay to take DNA and hold on to that.
Yeah, we've covered that a lot on this show, actually. Absolutely, that's huge.
There's that aspect of how this swirling morass of stuff works together. I'm not being particularly articulate about how they all in a way that.
No, but I
see
what you're. So you're
but
talking
they all
about
are really connected, and I'm really, really terrified about what that's going to mean in future incidents where that law and that ruling and this culture all comes together.
I think I see the thread you're drawing, because you're talking about, obviously there's this very long history that's a given of highly, until frankly very recently in American law, quite literally institutionalized racism. There's still obviously institutionalized racism, but literally there is separate accommodations, separate schools, and unequal public space written into the law. And now we have that carried forward in all these different ways, socioeconomically and in criminal justice policies, things like stop and frisk. And then you're getting into what I think you're drawing is this connection of what were the lives that people are trying to bring into law, namely corporations, which have been by things like Citizens United, or the theory of life, which is an unborn child, which supersedes the rights of the woman to have discretion over her own health and body, so therefore taking her personhood out, and then the kind of day in and day out grind of everything from stop and frisk to stand your ground, which operates as a withdrawal of personhood from certain groups, African Americans, but others as well, in terms of who were kind of according rights in a civil space. Because I think, again, to kind of draw it with this trial, there is no other. Maybe if it was a young Hispanic man, possibly. The case, the fact that it became a trial of Trayvon Martin, and he became this ludicrous character, which just on the face of any kind of basic logic or understanding of the situation or facts of the case could not have happened, is very reflective of what you're saying in terms of who's drawn in and out of personhood.
When people are ready to have the beyond racism 101 conversation to the racism 2.0 conversation, or how it works in America, to see a pattern of how black and brown bodies are represented in these really cartoonish and ghoulish ways, for which plays on the white imagination to the extent that one would feel it's reasonable to shoot a teenager walking home.
And that anybody else would believe that this teenager who was like a skinny kid with candy possessed superhuman strength and delivered B movie dialogue, I'm going to kill you. I mean, it's the most, it's so it's an insult to common sense is what I'm trying to say. And the fact that fits into so many people's conception of what is common sense is definitely in my view, the kind of cultural corollary of what you're talking about in terms of the legal implications of who we're bringing in and out of personhood.
Yeah, because on one hand, there's what culture and common sense and being completely having a degree of awareness about, and empathy even.
Yes.
About what makes who is a person equally protected under law, and certainly how Black Americans, Latino Americans, Asian Americans all fit in that category.
Right.
The other thing is that one of the things that I've been watching a trial as much as I can. I was as someone who's sat on a couple of criminal cases as a juror,
mm-hmm.
I was really, really nervous about the state's case, because remembering what jury instruction is just for New York laws about from assault to I sat on a grand jury, and then I sat on one for a murder case.
Right.
I'm like, I remember jury instruction, and I remember what I was able to like follow in terms of the case presented to me, and then I'm really and then being really sensitive to what the legal statute even says.
Right.
I was really nervous that the state wasn't going to meet its burden.
Yeah. I think again sorry, go ahead.
But it goes back to, and the thing is just how the statute in and of itself is written, because this wasn't so much a stand your ground defense, even though stand your ground was included in the language of the jury instruction. Mm-hmm. This was a self-defense case. Everything about how it's written already privileges the power of the person invoking the self-defense claim.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm wondering, structurally, there's a structural issue beyond just the cultural intelligence about what the optics look like. It's
Absolutely.
also just structurally how it's written.
Right. Well, I mean, and again, taking it with the connection we've been drawing, stop and frisk is very much a policy. It's formally in, the NYPD's metrics and in city policy, and it's been vigorously defended.